I never thought a simple gesture would change my life forever. Standing there, paralyzed as her fingers delicately adjusted my crooked tie, I couldn't breathe when she leaned in and whispered those words. If you're wondering how a struggling single dad ended up face-to-face with the CEO of Meridian Enterprises, and how those 7 whispered words transformed everything, you'll want to stay until the very end of this story. Like and subscribe if you've ever believed second chances are possible, because what happened next proved they absolutely are. Life had never been particularly kind to James Mitchell. At 34, he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, shoulders that slumped more with each passing day. 3 years ago, his wife Melissa had walked out, leaving him to raise their daughter Emma alone. The note she left behind was brief: "I can't do this anymore. I need to find myself." Those words had haunted him through countless sleepless nights as he tried to explain to a 5-year-old why mommy wasn't coming home. James stared at his reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror of his small apartment. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his once vibrant brown hair now showed flecks of premature gray. He straightened his second-hand suit jacket, the same one he'd worn to every job interview for the past 8 months. After being laid off from his accounting position at a small firm that went under, finding stable work had become his daily battle. "Daddy, are you going to be late again?" Emma's small voice called from the kitchen. At 8 years old, she had become surprisingly self-sufficient, a fact that filled James with both pride and guilt. "Not today, sweetheart," he replied, forcing cheerfulness into his voice. "Mrs. Patel will pick you up from school, and I should be home for dinner." He hoped that wasn't another broken promise. Today's interview at Meridian Enterprises was his last hope. His savings had dwindled to almost nothing, and next month's rent loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon. The position was for a financial analyst, a step down from his previous role, but he was long past being picky. Emma sat at their small kitchen table, carefully eating the cereal he'd poured for her. Her dark hair was pulled into slightly uneven pigtails, his best effort at morning hairstyling. "I made you something," she said, sliding a folded paper across the table. James opened it to find a crayon drawing of 2 stick figures holding hands, one tall, one small, with "Good luck, Daddy," written in wobbly letters across the top. His throat tightened. "It's perfect, Em. I'll keep it right here." He tucked it into his jacket pocket, right over his heart. After dropping Emma at school, James navigated the crowded subway to downtown. Meridian's headquarters occupied a gleaming skyscraper that seemed to touch the clouds, a world away from his humble apartment in the outer boroughs. Inside, the marble lobby bustled with confident professionals in tailored suits and designer shoes. James clutched his worn leather portfolio tighter, suddenly aware of the fraying edge of his shirt cuff. "I'm here for an interview with HR," he told the receptionist, trying to keep his voice steady. "James Mitchell, 10 o'clock appointment." The receptionist barely glanced up. 42nd floor. "They're running behind, so take a seat." James waited for nearly an hour, watching people come and go, each looking more qualified than him. When finally called in, the interview was brief and impersonal. The HR manager seemed distracted, asking routine questions while checking her phone. James left feeling hollow, certain he'd failed to make any impression. As he waited for the elevator, a text message lit up his phone: "Mr. Mitchell, there's been a scheduling error. Ms. Winters, our CEO, would like to conduct a second interview personally. Please return to the 50th floor immediately." James stared at the message in disbelief. The CEO wanted to interview him? There had to be some mistake. His finger hovered over the reply button when the elevator doors opened, and a security guard stepped out. "James Mitchell? I'm to escort you to Ms. Winters' office." The 50th floor was another world entirely, all glass, steel, and breathtaking views of the city. James's heart hammered against his ribs as the guard led him through a series of corridors to a set of imposing double doors. "Wait here," the guard instructed, disappearing inside. James stood alone in the hallway, fighting the urge to flee. He pulled Emma's drawing from his pocket, drawing strength from those simple crayon lines. When the doors opened again, he hastily tucked it away. "Mr. Mitchell, please come in." The voice belonged to a sharp-featured assistant who ushered him into a vast office dominated by floor-to-ceiling windows. And there she was, Alexandra Winters, the legendary CEO who had transformed Meridian from a struggling company to a global powerhouse in just 5 years. At 40, she was known as much for her brilliant business mind as for her ruthless approach to corporate takeovers. The business magazines called her the Ice Queen. She didn't look up from her computer when he entered, leaving him standing awkwardly before her massive desk. James shifted his weight from one foot to the other, clutching his portfolio like a shield. "Your resume says you were senior accountant at Hartwell Financial before they closed," she finally said, still not looking at him. "Why apply for an entry-level analyst position?" James swallowed hard. "I need the work, Ms. Winters. I have responsibilities that don't allow me the luxury of pride." That made her look up. Her piercing blue eyes studied him with such intensity that he felt transparent. "Responsibilities," she repeated, rising from her chair. She was tall, elegant in a tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent. "Tell me about these responsibilities, Mr. Mitchell." "My daughter," he said simply. "She's 8. It's just the two of us." Something flickered across Alexandra's face, so quickly he might have imagined it. She circled her desk, leaning against its edge just a few feet from him. "And you've been unemployed for 8 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days, he answered automatically. "Yet your references speak highly of your work ethic and skills." She picked up a folder, flipping through pages. "Your former employer called you irreplaceable." James felt a flicker of pride, quickly extinguished by reality. Not irreplaceable enough, apparently. To his surprise, Alexandra smiled, a small, tight gesture that didn't quite reach her eyes. Honesty. Refreshing. She moved closer, studying him. "Your tie is crooked." Before James could react, she stepped forward and reached for his collar. Her fingers brushed against his neck as she adjusted the knot with practiced precision. James froze, unable to move or breathe. The CEO of a billion-dollar company was fixing his tie, the same tie he'd bought on clearance 5 years ago. Then she leaned in, close enough that he could smell her expensive perfume, and whispered 7 words that would change everything. "I knew your wife. She was my sister." James felt the room tilt. His mind raced, trying to process this impossible connection. Melissa's maiden name had been Taylor, not Winters. She'd told him she was an only child, orphaned young. Their wedding had been small, just a courthouse ceremony with no family present. She'd always been vague about her past, changing the subject whenever he pressed for details. Alexandra stepped back, watching his reaction with those calculating eyes. "You didn't know," she stated rather than asked. "That's not possible," James finally managed. "Melissa never mentioned a sister. Her name wasn't even Winters. She changed it. We both did, for different reasons." Alexandra returned to her desk, pressing a button on her phone. "Cancel my next appointment, Claire." She gestured to a seating area by the windows. "Sit, Mr. Mitchell. This will take some time." James moved woodenly to the indicated chair, his mind still reeling. Alexandra poured 2 glasses of water from a crystal decanter, handing one to him before taking the opposite seat. "Melissa and I grew up in foster care," she began, her voice clinical, as if discussing a business case. "Different homes, mostly. Our parents died when she was 4, I was 6. The system separated us early on. I managed to track her down when I was 22, already building my first company. She wanted nothing to do with me or our past." James stared at the water in his glass, watching light refract through it. "She never told me any of this. Melissa was always running from something, usually herself. Alexandra's voice held no judgment, just a matter-of-fact acceptance. I kept tabs on her over the years. I knew when she married you, when Emma was born. You know my daughter's name? James looked up sharply. I know a great deal about your life, Mr. Mitchell. When Melissa left you, she came to me first. I offered help, for her to stay, for therapy, for financial support for Emma. She refused everything and disappeared again. That was the last time I saw my sister alive. The glass nearly slipped from James's hand. Alive? What are you saying? Alexandra's composed facade cracked slightly, a glimpse of genuine grief showing through. Melissa died 14 months ago. Car accident in Seattle. She was living under yet another name. It took some time for authorities to identify her, and more time for me to be notified. The room seemed to close in around James. 14 months. All this time, Emma had been asking when Mommy would come home, and he'd had no answers. Now he had one he couldn't possibly give her. Why didn't you tell us? He asked, his voice barely audible. I tried. I sent letters, made calls. They were returned, unanswered. Alexandra's gaze was steady. Your phone was disconnected. You'd moved from your last known address after the eviction. It took my investigators months to locate you. James felt shame burn through him. After losing the house, they'd bounced between temporary accommodations, always one step ahead of creditors. So this interview, it was never real? The position is real. Your qualifications are real. Alexandra set her glass down with precision. But yes, I arranged for your application to reach me. I needed to see you, to understand what kind of man my sister married, what kind of father my niece has. And now that you've seen... James couldn't keep the bitterness from his voice. Alexandra studied him for a long moment. I see a man drowning but still fighting to keep his child's head above water. I see someone who deserves better than the hand he's been dealt. She reached into her desk drawer and withdrew an envelope. This belongs to Emma. Melissa had a life insurance policy. Not large, but enough to make a difference. James stared at the envelope she extended. I can't take that. It's not for you. It's for Emma. Her birthright. When he still hesitated, Alexandra added, would your pride help your daughter more than this money would? Slowly, James reached for the envelope. Thank you, he said, the words inadequate for the emotions churning inside him. There's more, Alexandra continued. The analyst position is yours if you want it, but I'm actually offering you something different. My CFO is retiring next quarter. His deputy lacks vision. I need someone who understands value beyond spreadsheets, someone who knows what it means to protect what matters. James blinked in confusion. You can't possibly be offering me an executive position. You don't know me. I know enough. Alexandra's expression softened marginally. I've reviewed your work history thoroughly. Before Hartwell collapsed, you identified the weaknesses in their portfolio that could have saved them, warnings they ignored. You have the financial acumen I need, combined with something rarer, perspective that can only come from losing everything and still finding reasons to get up each morning. I don't understand why you would take this chance on me. Alexandra was quiet for a moment. Because Melissa loved you, even if she couldn't stay. Because Emma deserves opportunities. And because I've spent my life building an empire with no one to share it with or leave it to. She straightened, businesslike again. Consider it an investment in potential. You'll start as special advisor to the CFO, with appropriate compensation and benefits. Prove yourself, and the promotion is yours when he retires. James's mind raced through the implications. A real salary. Health insurance for Emma. Stability. A future. It seemed impossible, yet the woman across from him didn't appear to be joking. Why now? He asked. After all this time? Alexandra's gaze drifted to the city skyline. I recently received a diagnosis. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but it clarified certain priorities. Family should have been one of them long ago. She refocused on him with startling intensity. I'm not looking to play Aunt of the Year, Mr. Mitchell. I'm not good with children. But I can ensure Emma's future is secure, and perhaps in time, she might want to know about her mother's family. James felt overwhelmed by the sudden shift in his reality. Yesterday, he'd been on the verge of losing his apartment. Today, he was being offered a lifeline by the sister-in-law he never knew existed. I need to think about this, he said finally. Of course. Take the weekend. Alexandra handed him a business card with her private number. Call me Monday with your decision. As James rose to leave, still dazed, Alexandra added, one more thing, Mr. Mitchell. That drawing in your pocket, Emma's work, I presume? James touched his jacket where Emma's good luck charm rested. Yes. How did you know? The corner was visible when you sat down. For the first time, her smile seemed genuine. Bring her to the company picnic next month. I'd like to meet my niece, even if just from a distance for now. The elevator ride down felt surreal. James clutched the envelope and business card, tangible proof that the last hour hadn't been a dream. Outside, the city seemed different somehow, the same buildings and streets, but viewed through a lens of new possibility. That evening, as James helped Emma with her homework at their kitchen table, he watched her with new eyes. She had Melissa's smile, he realized, and perhaps something of Alexandra's determination in the way she tackled difficult problems. Did you get the job, Daddy? Emma asked, looking up from her math worksheet. James hesitated, unsure how to explain the day's revelations. I got a job, yes. A good one. Emma's face lit up. See? I told you my drawing was lucky. The luckiest, he agreed, his throat tight with emotion. There's something else. Something about Mom I need to tell you. Her expression grew serious, too serious for an 8-year-old. Is she coming back? James took her small hands in his. No, sweetheart. She can't come back. But I learned today that you have an aunt, your mom's sister. And she wants to meet you someday, when you're ready. Emma processed this information with surprising calmness. Is she nice? James thought about Alexandra Winters, the complex woman who had upended his world in the span of an hour. She's different. Strong. Smart. And I think, in her own way, she wants to be part of our family. Do I have to call her aunt? Emma wrinkled her nose. James laughed, the sound surprising him. No. You don't have to call her anything until you're comfortable. That night, after Emma was asleep, James sat at the kitchen table with the envelope Alexandra had given him. Inside was a check that would clear their debts and provide security they hadn't known in years. There was also a photograph, faded and creased, of two young girls with their arms around each other, both smiling despite missing front teeth. On the back, in childish handwriting, Alex and Mel, forever sisters. James studied the image of his wife as a child, seeing echoes of Emma in her face. He'd never known this Melissa, the one with a sister, with a past she'd hidden so completely. He wondered what else he hadn't known, what pain she'd carried that made her run from everyone who loved her. Monday morning found James back at Meridian Enterprises, this time with a properly knotted tie and a decision made. Alexandra received him in the same imposing office, but something had shifted between them, a fragile connection formed through shared loss and unexpected hope. I accept your offer, James said simply. For Emma's sake, and for Melissa's memory. Alexandra nodded, satisfaction rather than triumph in her expression. Welcome to Meridian, Mr. Mitchell. And, in a way, to the family.